Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another opportunity for us to talk about the ideas of the law surrounding self-defense. And I see a lot of people get kind of bamboozled by this idea of, well, wait a minute, why do I get questioned if I use a gun to defend myself? Well, somebody is shot and either grievously wounded or killed. We got a dead body cooling here. We got to do something with it. All right, we got to figure out, was this okay for you to do? And there are very few exceptions that are okay for you to do that. Self-defense is one of them. And what I see people do is they get this idea of, I was the innocent party, I was attacked, so I'm pure as the wind-driven snow. What I did was reasonable, so it's kind of either in or out. This idea of a boundaried set. Like, here are the boundaries. As long as I may be right here next to the boundary, but as long as I'm inside the boundary, I'm good. You know, I really think that the law, and especially juries, look at things more like a centered set, and today I want to teach you the difference. Lucky Gunner is my recommended trusted provider of freedom seeds for range or defensive use. In stock, good prices, and rocket fast shipping are why I go back again and again. Because of new guidelines, I can't link their site or say it, but you're smart and you can find it with a simple Google search. Stick it to the man by paying them a visit today. So there are multiple ways to look at, kind of what are the factors involved in a self-defense claim, all right? My favorite book on the topic is Masada Ayoub's Deadly Force. I think that's a really good book, and I think everybody who is a self-defender should read it. I think Moss is getting older, and so if you've not had a chance yet to take his MAG 40 class, his Armed Citizens Rules of Engagement class, I really do think it's a fantastic class, and I would recommend that you take it. I think it's the class that I would recommend for anybody that is going to carry CCW. That's a really good class. That and the ASP Skills Summit, because Neil and Chris are amazing at what they do teach in that class. But there's also, the Law of Self-Defense put out a book called The Law of Self-Defense. And while I don't interact with Andrew because he's really egregiously kind of not okay as a human, that book has some good stuff in it, okay? And that's another one that a lot of people go to. And they look at this boundaried set, all right? This boundaried set idea of well, okay, if we're going to use the law of self-defense, he has 5 things that he says. He says, are you innocent or not? Is the threat imminent or not? Did you use proportional force or not? Did you avoid or not? Was it reasonable what you did or not? And the way that gets taught is kind of like 5 pillars of a house. And so those pillars support the roof. And if the prosecution is able to knock one of those pillars out, then the roof falls and your self-defense claim fails. So that's that idea of, okay, wait a minute, were you the innocent party or not? And people look at that as either like a yes or a no. It's binary. You either are or you're not the innocent party. You are the offended one, he came and attacked me, or you were the aggressor, the attacker. Remember, if you're not the defender, you are the offender, right? So if you're not on defense, you're on offense. So wait a minute, am I innocent or not? Was the threat imminent or not? And so people look at that and they go, oh, okay, well, either it was or it wasn't. Well, the problem with that is we ask, okay, was I the innocent party or not? And I'll tell you the case of Cameron Leonard that I had. In my opinion, he absolutely was the innocent party. And why can we say that? So just a brief introduction to that one if you didn't see it, the video on that one that I did, which we have some more to do on that. I just haven't had time to. In that case, Cameron was playing table games with his family. His brother decides, you know what, I'm gonna head home tonight. I'm gonna get some DoorDash, some Wingstop delivered to my house so that when I get home, I've got some hot food. He orders that. DoorDash tells you who your delivery driver is. His brother realizes that his delivery driver is a guy that he had beef with in high school. So he says, all right, I'm going to make sure he doesn't spit on my food. Well, Cameron's like, well, gosh, man, I don't want you guys to have any problems. I don't want you to get in any fights. So I'm gonna go with you just to make sure everything's cool and to keep the peace, right? Well, both he and his brother carry their firearms like they do every day. And they go, his brother and the delivery driver end up having a fist fight. They end up getting into a Donnybrook, a fracas, a brouhaha. A gunfight breaks out. Both his brother and the DoorDash driver died. Cameron was ending up, the jury was like, no, he's not innocent because he went armed with intent. They actually convicted him in Iowa of being a prohibited possessor and having a firearm in his possession as a prohibited possessor, even though he had a valid Iowa concealed carry permit. Let me say that again. They convicted him in trial of being a prohibited person in possession of a firearm, even though he had a valid Iowa concealed carry permit at the moment he used deadly force. Why? Because they said, aha, he put the gun on to go and have a gunfight with that guy. He went armed with intent, and therefore he was not the innocent party, and therefore under Iowa law, he was a prohibited person because he went armed with intent. It instantly makes you a prohibited person. So the jury didn't agree that he was innocent there. Okay, I think the prosecutor did a really good job of setting him up as the bad guy. But was it a binary thing? Well, wait a minute. How much of that played into what the jury wanted to say? So let's think about, was it an imminent threat? Is a threat right now? Well, wait a minute. We don't say, is it an imminent threat? So he has to be shooting the gun at you in order to shoot him? Or does he have to be pointing the gun at you? What if he shows you the gun and then puts the gun away? We talk about that on the big channel all the time, right? So, armed robber shows you the gun, give me your wallet, give me your stuff, then puts the gun away in the holster and covers it so that other people don't see him with the gun out. Is that still an imminent threat? Well, some people would say, well, yes, it is. Absolutely, you're good. But I want you to note there's a kind of a scale and a spectrum here, okay? So on and so forth for proportionality, avoidance, reasonableness. There's another way to look at it too. Masada Ayub likes the ability, opportunity, and jeopardy. We'll talk about all those in another video. But did he have the ability to do you deadly harm? Did he put you at jeopardy of deadly force? And did he manifest intent? Ability, opportunity. Did he have the opportunity to deliver that deadly harm? And then did he put you at jeopardy of it? Did he manifest an intent to do you deadly harm? If so, ta-da, you can use deadly force. So we're asking 3 questions. Are you in the boundaries here? Are you in the boundaries here? Are you in the boundaries here? Rather, I want you to start thinking about this, and the way that I teach it now is teaching it on what we call a centered set. Not are you yes or no, not binary, not light switch on, light switch off, but rather where are you on the spectrum here? Okay, so when we say somebody is justified to what they do, I've got a picture up for you on it that you say, okay, wait a minute, right here in the center of this set is like the most pure as the wind-driven snow shooting that you could possibly imagine, all right? I think of one like my friend Thomas Yoxel. He saved Trooper Ed Anderson on the roadside who was being murdered on the roadside by a guy in a meth rage. Thomas sees him literally beating Trooper Anderson to death on the side of the road, who he had previously shot Trooper Anderson and shot him through and severed his right brachial nerve so that his arm was completely dead. So the trooper couldn't draw his gun. The guy was beating him to death. Thomas sees it, pulls up to it, stops, jumps out, tells the guy, hey, get off him. The guy looks at him and says, go away, and then continues to keep beating the trooper. Thomas shoots that guy multiple times, saved the trooper's life. Absolutely as righteous a shooting as you can imagine. Okay, just pure righteousness in terms of the shooting. Now, and that would be like as much as there. But then we start looking at, okay, wait a minute, how innocent is somebody in a, let's just say we weren't quite as innocent, right? And if you go, well, how could somebody be not really guilty but not really innocent? Well, I mean, I look at and I see something like Cameron again, and I go, okay, wait a minute. Was it purely innocence for him to be there that night? I mean, I can totally see why he would think that way, that he did. Well, I'm going to go with my brother, and I always carry my gun, so I carry it like I do every day, and I'm going to go with my brother, except for his brother was like, yeah, I've got beef with this guy. I'm going to go make sure he doesn't spit in my food and make sure everything's okay. So I'm headed towards a confrontation, and Cameron said, yeah, I'm going to head towards the confrontation with you. Now, I think his mindset there, I think his mental process was not that kind of aggression, but that's how the jury took it. So instead of being like pure innocent, it kind of slid out towards the edge here a little further. So if we might kind of imagine a sliding scale here where like 1 is really, really close to the ideal, and like maybe 5 is clearly bad, like, I'm going to go rob somebody at gunpoint is clearly not innocent, right? This is clearly not okay. Then a lot of times there's stuff that's kind of in the middle. Wait a minute, man, that's not quite as innocent as we would like because you kind of were part of this. You get into a mutual road rage, right? So you're flipping each other off and flipping each other the bird. You start bumping, Rubbin's racing, and you start bumping each other's cars and crap like that. Well, wait a minute, you're not really the aggrieved party anymore. This is mutual combat, so you're going to have a hard time with that. Or if you're breaking other laws. I had a case not too long ago, and the guy who used deadly force shot a gun at some people. It was effective. It got rid of a bunch of people, but the gun was kind of known to be stolen that he had. And he and all his buddies knew it was stolen. And it was voluntary combat. So I had to tell the attorney, man, I think you're going to really struggle with the jury here to prove that he was innocent, because he was doing hood rat stuff. He was doing stuff that he knew better than. So that will affect your innocence. So when we start talking about this spectrum here, we're talking about a centered set. Then let's think about something like imminence again, rather than it was imminent or it was not. Yes and no. It was, how imminent is it? Okay, the guy's threatening everybody in the room with a gun, and then as soon as he turned his eyes off me, I drew my gun and shot him because I was sure he was going to kill everyone. All right, that's a very imminent threat. Or, he pulled a knife and he showed me that knife and he said, give me your wallet or I'm going to stab you to death. And he's standing within, 6 or 7 feet of me. All right, cool, man, let me get you my wallet. It's right here in my back pocket. I pulled a gun, bang. Absolutely, very clearly, way over here on this side, imminent threat. Whereas you might say, okay, wait a minute. Yes, he had a knife and he said, or he said, hey, I'm going to go get a knife out of my car. Wait a minute, man. And he's like, give me your wallet right now. No, man, I'm not giving you my wallet. Okay, I'm going to go get a knife out of my car and come back and stab you. And he turns around and you shoot him in the back. Ooh, we're starting to have problems. Does he actually have the kind of ability to do you deadly harm? Is that truly an imminent right now threat, or could you have done something to make yourself safe instead? And so is it truly an imminent threat? Well, we're less so, right? So I'm not going to say, oh, wait a minute, you were evil here, because you're like, no, I mean, literally, I believed in what he was saying. But instead of this kind of number one here, absolute imminence, we're sneaking over here, 3, 4, right? And then we could see more from there. Avoidance. Now, I know so many people, they come and they say, well, John, I live in a stand your ground state. I don't have to retreat. I don't have to avoid. I'm fine. Thank God for stand your ground. Man, I can't tell you the number of people get hemmed up on stuff like this because they don't understand what stand your ground actually means. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do reasonable stuff to avoid a conflict. It means that you don't have a duty to retreat in the moment when a deadly threat comes your way. If instead, somebody comes and says, you're having an argument with a guy on the phone and he goes, oh, well, wait a minute, I'm coming over because my girlfriend is over at your house. And you're like, no, it's your ex-girlfriend, buddy. She's at my house now and we're dating, so you can just pack sand. Oh yeah, I'm gonna come over there and beat you to death. Well, come on, pal. I'd love to see you try. And then he does. Guess what? You're the provoker there. And so you didn't do anything to avoid the problem. Hey man, I don't want any problems with you. Don't come over here. All right. So now instead of like, I avoided the problem, no, you invited the problem. You brought the problem along with you. Sometimes, hey, you were doing other hood rat stuff. You were selling drugs. I'd like to congratulate drugs for winning the war on drugs. You were, involved in illicit activity. You were cheating on your wife. And so her husband caught you guys in bed and you're like, oh no, he's going to kill me. And I draw a gun and shoot him. Well, man, you could have avoided this whole thing by not cheating on cheating and stepping in on somebody else's marriage. See, we start losing some innocence, we start losing some avoidance, and then the reasonableness piece, the jury is the one who gets to determine that. So hear me, right? What I want you to start thinking about is, rather than am I yes or am I no? Is it innocent or not? Did he have ability or did he not? Did he have opportunity or did he not? Okay, fine. Sometimes we find things on the edge of the spectrum, but in reality, the reality of cases and the facts, we find things in the middle here all the time. So if you start getting more than a couple, so like I'm purely innocent as the wind-driven snow. Well, except for we were out having, we had a fist fight with that guy. Yeah, I invited a fist fight and he's the one who drew a gun. Okay, except for what was all the precipitating factors there? We slid away from this kind of way over here in the center of the set and we slid over here towards not so good, right? So do you want to be doing that stuff? No, you want to end up being Ned Flanders. You want to be the guy who is a good, sane, sober, moral, prudent person. That's why I use that phraseology all the time. Be a good, sane, sober, moral, prudent person. Don't pick fights. You want to stay as close to the center of the set as you can. Innocent as the wind-driven snow. Only using deadly force as a last resort because the threat is so imminent. If you don't use deadly force right now, you're going to die, or somebody that you kiss goodnight is going to die. You only use the proportional force that you have to. You use the kind of minimum force that is necessary to end that threat immediately. You did what you could, or it was an unavoidable threat completely, or you did what you could to avoid it and it still came your way. If you do all that, then chances are the jury will find it reasonable because you've stayed in the center of the set. The more you start going towards the edges, if innocence is over here, imminence is here, proportionality here, reasonableness and avoidance, ability, opportunity, jeopardy, the more you get outside the circle, the more you start getting towards the edge, the more likely you're going to face charges. And the more likely the jury is not going to agree with what you did and is going to end up convicting you. You don't want to be that guy. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, how good what were your actions? Maybe we could take some cases that are, and really, honestly, they only really have to attack one. If you're not the innocent party, you're in trouble. If you didn't do what you could to avoid the use of deadly force, you're in trouble. If you didn't use proportional force, you're in big trouble. Take a high-profile case. We could take bunches of high-profile cases, right? But looking at those, the facts are what really matters and how they kind of put into things. If you go look at the case of John Elliott that we just finished, right? And there's a bunch here on the channel. You can go watch those if you need to get filled in on those. John was just walking his dog down the street. He wasn't an aggressor, never met the other dogs before, knew who the owner of the dogs, the one who was in charge of the dogs, Lori Bathke, knew who she was, but they had no relationship, didn't have anything. So there was no beef between them or whatever. So he's just bebopping along, walking his dog down the street. Very innocent. When did he use deadly force on that dog? When it was right next to him. That dog had come all the way up to him when he used deadly force. He waited till the very last minute. So again, he was very much imminent in the potential deadly threat department, okay? He used proportional force because, again, a dog attacking a 75-year-old man is highly likely, especially 50, 55-pound dog, highly likely to put that 75-year-old man into the hospital. And he couldn't avoid it because he was, he's running away from a dog. 75-year-old man ain't gonna run faster than a dog's gonna run. I don't care what he does, right? I'm a 49-year-old man. I ain't running faster than a dog. So again, when we look at all of those, if we said yes or no, he was right in the middle of the boundary set. How innocent was he? 1 out of 5, way over on the easy side. How imminent was the threat? 1 out of 5, absolutely imminent. How proportional was John's use of force? Now, I'm going to tell you, the prosecution thought otherwise. The prosecution thought, well, he was carrying a gun. The fact that he was carrying a gun means he was looking for a dog to shoot. So they thought he wasn't innocent at all. They said, well, wait a minute, the dog had stopped a long way away from him and had turned broadside to him, and he shot the dog broadside. We showed otherwise, okay? Well, I mean, it's just a dog. It's not an actual deadly threat. It's not like he's pointing a gun at you. It's a dog. We had to show that a dog actually puts tons of people in the hospital every year, okay? So they were disagreeing that they wanted this to be on the other side. But in John's case, thankfully, the jury saw through that, and he was kind of, the fact of the matter is, because he was right in the middle of the centered set, then the jury saw through that. But, if he'd had beef with that woman, maybe, yeah, I knew who she was, and that dog had given me a hard time before, and so I'd like to walk past that dog, but I made sure I had my gun on me in case that dog got out. Now, that's not what John said. That had nothing to do with what John did, but imagine if he had. Imagine if that was the set of facts that we had here. Well, that would change things very much, because now you're not acting innocently. Well, John, why don't you just go on another block? Why'd you have to walk past this block? Well, because that's my right. I have every right to be where I want to be. Well, okay, but the jury's going to look at that. Again, imagine if John is, instead of a 75-year-old man walking his dog, he's a 40-something, 19-year martial artist who is known to teach use of less lethal tools. Well, why didn't you use your less lethal, John? Why didn't you use your martial arts skills, John? Why didn't you use what was available to you in the moment? Why did you go right to deadly force? Start thinking about proportionality, because I have those tools and options available to me. Now, I have those tools and options so that I use less force so we don't end up in trial to begin with. But you get my point, okay? So we can go on and on about that. So my encouragement to you, I wouldn't look at this like it is a boundaried set. I would look at it as a centered set, and even more than that, I would look at my own actions to the best of my ability. I want to be a good, sane, sober, moral, prudent person so that I'm in the center of the centered set all the time. So if ever, God forbid, I'm forced to use deadly force, the chances of that being a bad shoot are very, very slim. The chances of me putting myself in a place to be prosecuted are very slim, and the chances of me being convicted by a jury are very slim, because we'll be able to show all those things, okay? If you instead play on the edges because you say, oh, well, this is my rights and I can get away with this because it's inside the boundaries, man, when you play next to a mud puddle, sometimes you get muddy. I don't want that for you. So let's listen to this, please, so that you don't end up as one of my clients. It's the worst way to cover your ass.